I came into the wine business in 1980, and I kind of felt that the door was wide open, and sort of the traditions weren't really set up in cement yet, and there was still a lot of room for kind of lateral movement and things like that. And probably the best part was, back in those days, that you didn't have to be a specialist. You could be a pretty good all-arounder. And you could be pretty good at growing grapes, you could be a pretty good winemaker, you could be a pretty good businessman, and you could get out there and sell the stuff. But as time passed by, the wine business has become now, like any other business, is more and more specialists working together in teams, for better or for worse. It was a little challenging when we started because in 1980 the interest rates were about 20%. So no bank would touch us. So we had to go to these quasi-lending institutes and beg money at high interest rates. So, that was an eye-opener for us. We had no credit. We had to go to Sears Roebuck and buy a refrigerator on time to build credit to be able to get a credit card. So we got over those humps. And in the beginning, there was a lot of wine available. And it made it very easy for us to expand our brand with good margins. But as other people saw how successful we were, other really good competitors got into the business. And that also helped us up our game. That's when we had to bring in real professionals and good consultants to help us stay ahead because we were the leaders. But the competition got really stiff. And then once that competition gets super stiff, of course, the margins start to erode. And then you have to evaluate, is this a good business to be in, or should you move on? My family was really lucky to be able to be twice successful in developing two different businesses in this wine business. And we had great runs. We had a lot of fun. We had great employees, incredible relationships, from distributors to customers, you name it. I mean, it's been totally blessed. But at a certain point, you realize that the category you're in and the brand that you have are starting to reach full potential. Most people wait too long so that there's absolutely no upside left. The one thing that we were lucky to learn early is that if you're thinking of making a change, you need to do it when you can convince somebody that there's still a major upside in them getting the brand and that they are a perfect match in being able to synergize that brand to the next level. And we were able to do that twice. With Glen Ellen, the category was getting saturated and the margins were starting to be reduced. Selling it to a huge company made a big difference in them being able to find efficiencies and being able to make it a good business decision for them. They were happy to have it. And Benziger was the same way. The business was starting to get very crowded. It was starting to be very difficult for family businesses to operate. And this became a great opportunity for us to have some members leave the business who wanted to retire or do something else. But other members were able to stay in the business and be able to contribute even at a higher level than when we owned it before. So it was a real win for the family. We were lucky. A saying my family has always kind of stuck to was always work backwards from the shelf. And so that meant that we were really always on the front line talking to the consumer and trying to anticipate what the consumer wanted, even before they wanted it. We weren't just sitting back here in the ivory tower saying, hey, I know they're gonna like a good Cabernet or they're gonna like that $20 Chardonnay. No way. We got all of our input from the front lines, from the guy that was selling wine off the shelf, the waiter or whatever, and that's what we took back here to fashion our business plan. We had people that really knew what they were doing so they could execute at the distributor level. And then we had family members and other people like that were closer that went out and actually dealt with the public and created that one-on-one chemistry with the people so that we could truly develop what we called a customer for life. Somebody that wanted to be part of the family. You start at the shelf And then you figure out what is going to be your unique positioning. There's always the return on investment that you look at, for your investments. As this business has become bigger and bigger, the financial part of it, the economics have become more and more important. For better or for worse, that has impacted the way that we approach the product. Well, that's one thing that we really have to be careful about, is that the more economics become ingrained and deeper into a company, the more the danger is of that product becoming a commodity. Because the people that are working in that upstairs office on the computer don't know anything about making a product unique. They just want to know how you make a product efficiently. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong about efficiency, but the guy that's managing the process has to understand what the balance is between being efficient and being unique. At Benziger, we decided that we would contract our sales force. So a company like ours might have maybe 20 or 25 salespeople. So we decided that it would be more efficient for us to have access to over 100 salespeople, even though we had to share those salespeople with other wineries. And the byproduct of this was that we were able to spend more resources and more energy on growing grapes and making wine and communicating our message, instead of having to go out there and perform the sales function all the time. That is the good part of it. That's the ideal part of it. It worked relatively well for us. The downside is that you have another level of sales that you have to work on. So now you have to convince your own sales force, who sells maybe 10 or 15 other wines, why they should sell your wine over the other guy's wine, or why you should get that discretionary time over the other guy. And I think we were pretty good at that. We were pretty good at convincing our sales force that we deserved more discretionary time. Most of the time, when it didn't work with the contract sales force, it happened when we made our goal early in the year and with great momentum. And then once we made our goal, they pulled off to work on other people's product at that point, where we saw that, oh boy, if we just had a little bit more push, we could be up 20%, not 15%. So that's one of the real problems, is that you're gonna get so much time, and when your time is done, your goal is met, then you run up against a wall. I kind of look at advertising as kind of like air bombing, and I kind of look at social media as like drone strikes. And then I look at like one-on-one wine club dinners and things like that as kind of like boots on the ground. And I think you need a combination of all of those things to be successful. Again, I'm a bias from the ground up. So, 40% of your budget for direct consumer interaction, maybe another 40% on social media, and then 20% on advertising. Word of mouth, of course, is the gold standard. And then if that can be amplified by social media the right way, then you really got it going. Working in the direct-to-consumer realm has been really the key to success for the Benziger family. And it's really something that's right in our wheelhouse, because it means direct. That means a direct relationship with the customer. And that's what we're really good at. And I find that people, they want to feel like they're part of something. And if you can make them feel part of the family, loyalty. If they believe in what you're doing, biodynamics, green farming, loyalty. If they believe they're getting a good value for what you're doing and they're getting a product that nobody else, their neighbor down the street, is not getting, they're loyal to you. The direct-to-consumer business can be as much as 4 times more profitable than selling through the 3-tier system. But that said, the direct-to-consumer business the profits are starting to erode right now, again, because of competition, and again, because of the software and the computer programs that you need to really track consumer preferences are expensive. But it's that software and that ability to attract customers that can give a winery the ability to have 50,000 or 100,000 direct-to-consumer relationships, individual. If you have the software right, it's an incredible resource. For me, the main way of keeping passion is staying close to the land. There's no doubt in my mind, the closer you are to the land, the more passionate you can be. You can see that with people in the business. The further they are away from the land, the more they are driven by numbers and not by emotion. You need a balance of that to be successful. But in my opinion, you need a slight bias for passion for the land. What I've seen is that people are looking for an experience. They don't want to go to a tasting room and taste wine in the old traditional way, but they want to come to a place, to Sonoma County or Napa, and they want to have the experience. They want to have the agrarian, they want to have the estate experience. They want to see what they're going to eat on the land, and they want to see what they're going to drink on the land, and then they want to be able to sample it. We weren't always saints, for sure. And the reason why we were so attracted to biodynamics was because we killed this property here with love and chemicals. And because we didn't know better, our consultants told us there was only one way to farm, and that was with no competition whatsoever from nature. In other words, control it by eliminating it. And we literally killed the property, killed the soil, eliminated all the wildlife and everything. And one day we had this epiphany when we walked out on the property, and there was no noise, it was silent. No birds, no insects, no buzz, no nothing. And at that point we knew we needed to do something to help heal the land. And when we came upon this practice called biodynamics, it immediately resonated with us because of its ability to bring life back. And when we started to apply it, we saw immediate results. What we did differently was we got rid of all artificial materials and just started using living materials. We started to use other plants to create reservoirs for good insects. So instead of using pesticides, we were using good bugs to take care of the bad bugs. Instead of using artificial fertilizer, which is just nitrogen and other ammonia products that destroy soil texture, we made compost, which is a living fertilizer, and used that to create more microorganisms and to create a healthier soil. And if you use those on over and over again, year after year, you build an incredible amount of life into your vineyards and into your farm. And then over time, we start to look at the farm not as a piece of land, but actually as a living organism. And when you look at something as a living organism, you take care of it in a whole nother level. I have to say that the most important tool when it comes to farming is consciousness. Being conscious of what you're doing and conscious of the effect that you're going to have on the environment, and what does the environment need from your property. The reward for being a conscious thinker and using biodynamics, the reward for being a higher level manager is the fact that you are preserving this place for the future. The tendency in traditional agriculture is to mine and move. And that just doesn't work anymore. So today, we have to think about farming and managing resources and what their health is going to be 50 or 100 years out. And that takes more than just hands. It takes heart and it takes brains to be able to do that. I think if we had devoted more energy to that on the front line, we could have moved the business further along in the sustainability issues. The regulatory aspects 30 years ago, of course, were next to nothing compared with what they are today. And, for better or for worse, it takes at least a year if not more, to be able to get permits, to be able to build a facility. Maybe more. And it's questionable whether everybody should be able to do it. You know, there is a point where you reach saturation, where you start to foul the beautiful agricultural area that people are coming to visit. And I think we're pretty close to that now. I think that the farm is the university of the future. When you look at what happens on a farm, you couldn't think of a better college, MBA, doctoral education. A farm represents economics, a farm represents marketing, a farm represents love, taking care of the land, and a farm represents a community of not just people, but people and animals and things like that. Everything that you need to nurture your career happens on a farm, and happens on a farm in an incredibly deep and meaningful way. And what I love about the farm too is that it's not compartmentalized. One of the things that I really don't like about education these days is that you're taught economics. Then you go over here and you're taught, something else about the business, transportation. Then you're taught about growing and winemaking. On the farm, you're dealing with all those issues all at the same time in an integrated and coalesced way, like the real world. If you are interested in being in the wine business, you have the opportunity to manage an incredible amount of natural resources. And that gives you the ability to be able to create a better future for your community.